From UFOs to psychic powers and government conspiracies, history is riddled with unexplained events. You can turn back now or learn the stuff they don't want you to know. And we are back. We are still standing with you in our hypothetical beach surf shop, which we'll call it, what should we call it?
Ron John.
Paulie Shores? Like
Paulie
Shores.
I'm sorry, guys. I keep harping on Ron John. I think people that aren't from this part of the country don't even know what that is, but I think it's a Myrtle Beach thing. Or it's like, there's a shark, and I just remember the T-shirts from when I was a kid. It's a nostalgia thing for me. Plus, it's fun to say Ron John, but I love Paulie Shores. That's way better.
So, well, they can all exist. You know, Myrtle Beach has a booming economy, right? So like there are a lot of stores.
Turns out 40% of their gross domestic product comes from airbrush T-shirts.
Woo! Right, and that's just the gross. So we're at Paulie Shores. Paul, I'm sorry, you drew the short surf straw on this one. We're standing with you in this aisle. We're already spending a lot of time trying to figure out what's happening with this sunscreen. Is that SPF real, right? Because we know it turns out for one reason or another, it is often not what it purports to be. There's a second problem. There have been multiple claims over the years. You're thinking about this, right? Let's just get into this scenario. You're thinking about this, you're looking at the sunscreen, and you're on your phone, and you found this stuff and Consumer Reports and blah, 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 and you think, okay, I found one that I think is going to work. And then some dude breezes past you in flip-flops and cargo shorts, and he says, he's a bit of a Leatherman, and he says, "Don't fall for it, kid. That stuff gives you cancer." There's been so many, there have been so many claims in the past that sunscreen itself, particularly the chemicals in it, the active ingredients, can in fact harm your body, harm your various systems, and in some cases become carcinogenic, create cancerous conditions. Maybe not skin cancer. So maybe in avoiding skin cancer, you are suffering from another type of cancer because of the active ingredients in these substances. Is that true? Let's see. Let's go to the experts, right? Let's go to the experts. So that cargo shorts guy breezes past, drops some conspiracy knowledge on you on his way to get what are those things that go on your upper arm?
Floaties?
Yeah, on his way to get floaties.
He just swings by. All right. Choosing that one, huh? Well, guess what? That one causes cancer, buddy. Don't use that one. I got to get these floaties over here.
That was pretty good, Matt.
Sorry, I've been watching his new YouTube channel recently.
Matthew McConaughey's YouTube channel?
No, let's go. You go to the experts, right? That guy, you can't trust that guy. Not McConaughey, but the dude that was there in the store. Who knows?
Played by McConaughey. Clearly,
yeah.
We have established that in this scenario.
But, you can't take somebody's just quick offhand comment as fact. So you got to look to the experts. What are they saying? Well, here's the deal. You're looking at studies from experts, or at least scientists or people who are or researchers who are spending a lot of time and effort to get results, maybe, or maybe they're working for a company, or maybe they're working against a company, because what you end up looking at when you're researching this stuff is that you've got some folks saying that these studies are legitimate, and then others, a lot of experts saying a lot of the studies that say some of these things are essentially misinformation or disinformation. Like, it's not right, and it's the results that are being regurgitated, just and spoken about are actually mischaracterized.
Yeah. So Let's take, for example, Dr. Jennifer Lin, who is an assistant professor of dermatology at Harvard Medical School, co-director of Melanoma Risk and Prevention Clinic. She has an insightful response about some of the kind of alarmist or fear-mongering reports here, specifically about oxybenzone. And she says there has been no conclusive evidence that oxybenzone is harmful to humans. Asterisk. And she notes something that happens in a lot of studies, in a lot of pop science. You'll hear a study that says like, insert substance X or substance so-and-so has been found to cause cancer in mammals, or, to somehow like have a deleterious effect on you. But they don't talk about how that study was conducted or what actually happened. So Dr. Lin points out that organizations that have raised concerns about oxybenzone cite studies that were done on rats, which are not human yet, and that rats were physically fed oxybenzone. They weren't shaving the rats and then putting sunscreen on them. They were forcing them to eat this stuff. And according to Dr. Lin, it would, quote, take an individual human being, I imagine, 277 years of sunscreen use to achieve the same dose that produced the harmful effects in these rats. And that's based on a study from the Journal of the American Academy of Dermatology in 2017. It's a number of years ago.
Yeah, four almost.
So what changes? This is the second big issue. There's a recent study that came out, 2021. It turns out that sunscreen, the stuff you use to prevent skin cancer from exposure to sunlight, might actually, yes, have a chance of giving you cancer. That's the claim people are making. This study, which was by several French and US scientists, looked at skincare brands overall. L'Oreal, Neutrogena, Bioderma, like the big ones. Picture the big brands of skincare. It looked at all of these, and it looked especially at something called octocrylene.
Octocrylene. Sounds interesting. It's a chemical, right? And this is kind of weird, and it's a bit difficult to navigate because octocrylene isn't necessarily the issue, the bad thing. That octocrylene itself. What happens is this substance, if you let it sit around for long enough, over time it degrades into something called benzophenone.
Yeah, and benzophenone is the, think of it like the final form, right? Or think of it like if octocrylene is the mogwai, benzophenone is the gremlin. That's actually, wow, that's actually pretty, not a bad comparison.
Just feed it time. Don't feed it time.
Yes, don't feed it time. This is weird. So octocrylene is already controversial in a number of places due to concerns about its effect not on humans, but on the overall environment. It's been banned in a couple of places, including Hawaii and the U.S. Virgin Islands. This study did something pretty neat. They said, we need to figure out what happens to sunscreen when it's just left on a shelf. Because think about it, the sunscreen you probably buy is not refrigerated or something like that. You know what I mean? It's not like in a cool, dry cellar or something like, it's on the shelf next to the flip-flops, next to the towels, next to the floaties, etc.
And it's been sitting in Paulie Shores for a while. Might even have some visible dust on the top of the cap. This study used an artificial aging process to replicate that passage of time to show what happens to these products when they've sat on a shelf at Paulie Shores for around a year, ballpark a year. The thing is that the concentration of this chemical, this harmful chemical, increases the longer it sits on that shelf. So we're reading SPF, but what you should be reading is the expiration date. According to FDA regulations,
sunscreen has a shelf life of 3 years.
Oh,
But this study shows if it's on that shelf for a year, depending if this one thing, this octocrylene is in it, then it is slowly kind of Jekyll and hiding into a thing that is very easily absorbed by your skin that you very much do not want in your body.
And it gets worse over time. I believe the concentration can actually increase the longer that you leave it on the shelf. So it's very, very important to keep a close eye on those expiration dates.
Mm-hmm. And this stuff, by the way, benzophenone is banned for use as an ingredient in food or an ingredient in cosmetics. So it's not there. It's not legally allowed to be in that bottle of whatever you buy. And it's more than sunscreen, by the way. There was a study in the 1990s that found just how successfully this stuff is absorbed by the skin. And it makes a pretty solid argument for regulation, to prohibit this chemical from being included in stuff like sunscreen or shampoo or perfume. But the problem goes even further. Octocrylene has not met those FDA regulations for safety or effectiveness. I think it still hasn't. Like as of February 2019, as of 2 years ago, this stuff was still not meeting the guidelines from the FDA, which means that if you wore sunscreen anytime before 2019, depending on what you bought, the odds aren't looking great. Unless you like rolled in mud, hippo or elephant style to protect yourself from the sun, you probably got some of this stuff in you.
Yeah. Let's talk really quickly a little more about the Hawaii banning, because that just occurred. Hawaii just passed legislation that banned 2 chemicals in sunscreens. I'll actually pull up the Senate bill here. Center for Biological Diversity sent this out on March 9th of this year, 2021, and they are banning 2 petrochemicals within sunscreens, avobenzone and octocrylene. And the 2 of the biggest things that came out of this, or one of the biggest reasons that they're banning it, is because they've found that these chemicals are actually bleaching the coral reefs around Hawaii. These chemicals are coming off of people's skin when the sunscreen is applied to them and hurting the environment to that, like having a huge effect on the environment. That's a big deal. And they're chemicals that you're putting on your body, like directly, that's being absorbed, as Ben said. Ugh.
Yeah, it's not a super sunny proposition. I will never forgive myself for that one. You're absolutely right, Matt. It's important to note that this process, which has been proven by this study, or there's a strong argument that it occurs fairly commonly. This process was welcomed by people who believed previous myths or mischaracterizations about ugly chemicals in skincare products. So it kind of fed the fire, right? It turned out there was a grain of truth to some of the allegations or some of the suspicions and rumors. According to Dr. Sharon Lawhan, this stuff, benzophenone, is the worst offender in causing contact dermatitis. It can also induce anaphylaxis, and it is classified as carcinogenic by the International Agency for Research on Cancer, which is part of the World Health Organization. So people are aware of this. People are aware of this, including the industry. In 2019, almost 3,000 different products, which is such a vague term, but 3,000 kinds of shampoo, kinds of sunscreen, kinds of I'm guessing here. What's another skin thing? Moisturizer? Mm-hmm. Is that okay? Okay.
Yeah. Cetaphil is a real popular one. It's really apparently quite important to moisturize every day. I don't do it every day, but I try to get to it when I remember. But yeah, no, it's true.
So there's another thing that happened, which was these stories pop up with you've heard about it before, rat feces in cereal, right? And I don't know if you guys remember that one. There was a long time story where people would say, actually, the FDA allows a certain amount of rat feces in cereal. There's only so much you can do. You can't ever have 0% rat poop cereal.
It's like the idea of a grade E meat at Taco Bell containing some percentage of rat meat or something like that.
Exactly. The idea being that it's legal, but it's a loophole that a lot of people don't know about. Like someone in the industry is saying, okay, all right, Uncle Sam, clearly if there was anyone able to make cereal with 0% rat feces, they would put that on the front of the box, right? It'd be like right next to the Raisin Bran. There's the no rat poop.
What am I going to do? Get all the rats out of here? Oh, come on. I'm making cereal here.
We're a cereal company, not an exterminator service, sir. I'm just thinking what kind of integration, what kind of integration is that where you say, we started off making cereal. It had all this rat poop in it. And we were like, is this a feature? Is this a bug? Long story short, we killed the rats, sold the meat to Taco Bell. We kept the poop. We got 2 scoops of it. Raisin Bran.
Ugh, guys.
Apparently by Bernie Sanders.
I come to you once more to tell you that there are definitely 3 scoops of raisins in every box of Raisin Bran.
So 3 scoops. They went up, huh?
Yeah. Is it only 2?
Well, that 3rd scoop is rat poop.
Exactly.
So this, we are hopefully joking, but it is true that something similar has happened with the sunscreen industry. The French Federation of Beauty Enterprises, an industry organization, a trade organization, responded to this study, and they basically said, yeah, we know. We know that this octocrylene is in here. We know that it turns into this dangerous chemical. But look at the study. They said these are always below the toxicity thresholds that are safe for human health, which is a lot like saying, you can eat a couple spiders in your oatmeal. You can have a little bit of rat poop. You can have a little bit of rat poop as a treat.
Well, even as a treat,
Bernie Sanders style.
Indeed. Even in regulation of fisheries, and wildlife, and certain allowable amounts of pollution in water, like there are mercury warnings, for certain bodies of water because it absorbs into the fish, but there also is an allowable level of mercury, which seems like it would be 0, but it's not 0. But also we are talking parts per million or billion in some cases. So, there is truth to this, even as squeamish as it sounds to say toxicity thresholds or the idea of things that are acceptable for human health. It certainly makes you cringe, but I mean, it's not untrue, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, you're talking about something happening at scale. You know what I mean? How can any organization keep its eye on every falling sparrow of a contaminant? It's quite difficult. But in this case, toxicity levels or thresholds aside, like the reason that this trade organization responded by pointing out these thresholds and saying, yeah, this stuff is dangerous, but it's not dangerous in the amounts that are found by the study. It's because it is virtually impossible to regulate a bunch of these things effectively. But in this case, there's like clearly one that clearly transforms into this other thing. And no one's saying change the recipe. What they're saying is it's okay because there's not enough of it there, which is like saying, hey, at this point, the rat poop is part of the cereal. You know what I mean? It's part of the ingredients here. What we're gonna take it out?
Yeah,
that would destroy Raisin Bran.